Good morning and welcome. I will now call to order the March 17, 2022 Clackamas County Board of Commissioners Business Meeting, and happy St. Patrick's Day. Gary.
Thank you, Chair Smith. First, our staff support today: Stephen Madcore, County Counsel; Shannon Bays, Clerk to the Board. Roll call: Commissioner Shull.
Here.
Commissioner Fisher.
Here.
Commissioner Schrader.
Here.
Commissioner Savas.
Present.
Chair Smith.
Here. I will now lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. Good morning, everyone, and welcome back. I particularly am so happy to be present in person meetings, and we welcome all participants. General public comment will be taken both in person and virtually, so anybody who wants to call in, go ahead and make an arrangement to do that now. The public is welcome to sign up to testify, and please use the blue cards that are now sitting at this table over here as you're left when you come through the doors, and put them in a basket. It's just easier for staff to manage, and then staff will pick them up and bring them to me throughout the meeting. Registration for public comment is available on Zoom online, and we will prompt you regarding how to do that when the time is right. I would like to remind all participants, including staff, all elected officials, and members of the public, that Robert's Rules of Orders will be enforced during this meeting. We welcome your opinions and your polite participation as we move forward. I will now recess as a Board of County Commissioners and convene as a Housing Authority Board. Gary, can you introduce the first item?
Yes, Chair Smith. First is the Housing Authority Consent Agenda. Shannon, first, would you bring in Housing Commissioner Ann Leenstra, who is on Zoom? And there she is. Welcome, Commissioner Leenstra.
Thank you.
Shannon, would you please read the consent agenda?
Approval of a board order number 1961 to write off uncollectible accounts for the third quarter of fiscal year 2022. Collection losses total $3,896.56. No county general funds are involved.
Does any commissioner wish to remove any items off of this consent agenda? Seeing none, and I will entertain a motion from Commissioner Ann Leenstra.
I move we approve the Housing Authority consent agenda. Second.
Commissioner Leenstra has moved for approval of the consent agenda, and Commissioner Schrader has seconded the motion. Any further discussion? Seeing none, Shannon, would you please call the poll?
Commissioner Leenstra?
Aye.
Commissioner Fisher?
Aye.
Commissioner Savas?
Aye.
Commissioner Schrader?
Aye.
Commissioner Shull?
Aye.
Chair Smith?
Aye. Motion passes 6-0. Thank you very much, Ann, for showing up and voting with us.
Thank you.
I will now adjourn as a Housing Authority Board and reconvene as a Board of County Commissioners. Gary, what's up next?
Next, Chair Smith, is previously approved land use issues. First item, approval of a board order related to a previously approved zone change application, file Z0529-21-Z, regarding a historic landmark zoning overlay on the Kinsman House. Nate Boderman, Assistant County Counsel, will give you a brief presentation. Go ahead, please.
All right, thank you. Good morning, everybody. As Gary mentioned, this is an application by the Kinsman Foundation to apply a historic landmark overlay on property located at 17014 Southeast Oatfield Road. The county's Historic Review Board conducted a public meeting on this matter and voted to recommend approval of the proposal to apply the historic landmark overlay. The board then held public hearings on this matter, or a public hearing on this matter, on February 9th, 2022, and voted 4-0 at that time in favor of approving the proposal as recommended by the Historic Review Board and staff. And so the findings in order to implement that decision is now up for your consideration here today. Happy to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you, Nate. Do any of the commissioners have any clarifying questions or comments on this? Commissioner Savas.
Chair, I'll be recusing myself. On that morning, I was up at in a meeting at Mount Hood regarding and representing Clackamas County on a transportation land use matter. And so therefore, I would recuse. I was not part of that dialogue.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Savas, for that. Any other further discussion on this? Commissioner Scholl?
Yes, this particular property is clearly worthy of preservation and historical recognition. Thank you.
With that in mind, Commissioner Scholl, I will entertain a motion.
I move for the approval of Board Order 2022-24, adding a historic landmark zoning overlay on the site known as the Kinsman House.
Second.
Commissioner Scholl has moved for approval on Board Order 2022-24, and Commissioner Schrader has seconded that motion. Any further discussion? Seeing none. Shannon, please call the poll.
Commissioner Fisher?
Aye.
Commissioner Schrader?
Aye.
Commissioner Scholl?
Aye.
I apologize for not knowing this. Do I call on Commissioner
Yes.
Savas? Commissioner Savas?
I'm recusing myself.
Chair Smith?
Aye, motion passes 401. Thank you very much, Commissioners. Gary, what's up next?
Next, this is a second previously approved land use issue. This item is approval of a board order related to a previously approved zoning map amendment, file Z0439-21-Z, on the request to remove the historic landmark zoning overlay on the site known as the Christian Maralt Farm. Nate will present on this as well.
Thanks again, Gary. So this is an application by Danielle and Eno Mann to remove a historic landmark overlay on property located at 20750 South Beaver Creek Road. Again, the Historic Review Board conducted a public meeting on this matter and voted to recommend approval of the proposal to remove the historic landmark overlay. The board then held a public meeting on February 9th, 2022, same date as the other historic review matter that we just discussed, and voted 3-1 at that time in favor of approving the request. So the 3-1 vote was to approve the following motion, and again, I'll just read the motion verbatim into the record, which was to approve Z0439-21-Z as recommended by staff and the County Historic Review Board with the condition that the property be listed for removal and advertised for a period of 90 days to include a sign to that effect posted on the property. And as we discussed previously, given the context of the discussion leading to that motion during the hearing, staff interpreted that condition to require really three things. One, that the applicant promote the structures to the public for relocation or salvage by posting a sign on the property for a period not less than 90 days. Second, by advertising the structures in a local and regional newspaper. And third, by providing direct notice to local historic preservation organizations. So we went ahead and included the materials in your packet showing how the applicant is currently complying with these condition requirements. So you should have that information. And one final thing to note, if you approve the order here today, the effective date won't be until June of this year. And that's to provide for the full amount of time that was expressed in the condition and to allow those that might be interested in those relocation or salvage opportunities to be able to coordinate their efforts. So again, happy to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you, Nate. So the applicant can begin complying with our amendments to this previous to today, correct? And that will be included in the 90 days from that going forward, not today's approval?
Well, right, and they'll have 90 days from the date of the approval before they could begin any sort of demolition activities or anything to
But they've already
implement.
started advertising, correct?
But they have already started advertising.
Wonderful.
Sign is on the
Do any
property.
commissioners have any further qualifying comments or questions on this? Commissioner Fisher?
Yeah, I was the one no vote when this came before us. I was more in favor of the applicant going through a more rigorous process in the deconstruction of the property and not removing the historical overlay. But I have total confidence in our attorneys in drafting the board order of which we are approving today, and so I will be a yes vote, implementing the will of the board.
I thank you for that clarification, Commissioner Fisher. Commissioner Schrader made a recommendation, which I totally agreed with, it's a practice that I did years ago when I bought a historical property, offering up the old water tower and this house for anybody who wants to salvage the wood, remove the property at a different location, or using any of the salvage wood for whatever purposes they can do. We ask the applicant to advertise in the newspaper for 90 days and to post a sign. I drove by today and yesterday. I was seeing the sign on the property. I assume they have reached out to the Historic Board Authority, whomever that may be, and maybe they'll get some takers. That would be wonderful. It would satisfy a lot of concerns in the area. I will say also, there are many other wonderfully maintained historical structures on Beaver Creek Road in this area. So, Commissioner Savas.
Yes, again, that was held on the same morning in which I was representing you all, the county, on a Mount Hood transportation land use matter. So I will, again, be recusing myself. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Savas. Commissioner Scholl, you're up.
Yes, it's regrettable that we cannot preserve every piece of our history. The cost is overwhelming at times. But for the people who wanted to see this Christian Moralt farm preserved, know that in the Museum of Oregon Territories, there'll be a file for your grandchildren and their grandchildren to read about this property. So it's not going to go away completely. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Any further discussion on this? Seeing none, I will entertain a motion.
Okay, I move for approval of Board Order 2022-25, removing the historic landmark zoning overlay on the site known as the Christian Moralt Farm.
Seconded.
Nate, I know what you're going to say.
Well, we were just clarifying the board order number. I don't have that in front of me.
I have it in front of me, and I think I can state that. Is that all right?
It was part of the motion. I was just clarifying with Stephen
Well,
that
I have
correct.
file Z0439-21-C.
But it
correct?
gets assigned a different board order number, is that correct?
It does, and
Okay.
the next one in
And then we
line
do
is
the motion
25.
again.
So I
Read,
should
and
have
then it
done
needs to be
the
seconded.
removal of a board order related to previously approved?
Yes.
Oh, okay, so should we just redo that?
I think it was correct. I was just conferring with Stephen that the numbers were straight.
It was not correct. The numbers are not the same
They're not the same?
in my
yeah.
script. I want to make sure.
So we have two numbers. We have a planning file number, which is the Z0 number, and then we have a separate board order number. And so we're trying
Okay,
to
so
keep
let
that
me-
straight.
let me
Commissioners, your
start.
script is correct. You are approving the board order now, not the application number. That's done. Board
Correct.
order is correct, your script
Okay.
is correct.
So read that first one. Thank you, Commissioner Schrader.
So, read B.
No, I think you read it correctly.
No, Paul.
Go ahead and restate the motion,
No.
please,
Okay.
Commissioner Schrader.
I'm going to read this piece right here.
Correct.
Okay, great. Approval of a board order related to a previously approved zoning map
No,
amendment.
Commissioner Schrader, I apologize.
Oh, that's all right.
It's-
File ZO439-21-Z on the request to remove the historic landmark zoning overlay on the site known as the Christian Moralt Farm.
I apologize, Commissioner, that is not the correct motion.
It's not, so it's now,
It is
so
at the
it's,
middle of your page.
Okay,
You're
that's the
approving
one I
board
thought I
order
read.
number.
I think she said that.
I already said that one.
You said it the first
You know
time.
what? Guess what?
Let's vote.
We're just going to do it again. Okay? Just for a point of clarity, we're having a lot of fun here. We're all dressed in green. So Commissioner Schrader, would you please restate your original motion?
Okay, my original
Thank you.
motion. We haven't been together for quite some time, ladies and gentlemen, so you're kind of, we're a little giddy this morning because we're like, oh, we have colleagues. Fantastic. Okay. I move for approval of Board Order 2022-25, removing the historic landmark zoning overlay on the site known as the Christian Moralt Farm. Okay, so that was the restatement.
Seconded.
Thank you. Commissioner Schrader has moved for approval of Board Order 2022-25, and Commissioner Scholl has seconded that motion. Any further discussion? Seeing none, Shannon, please call the poll.
Commissioner Savas,
I'm recusing myself.
Commissioner Fisher,
Aye.
Commissioner Schrader,
Aye.
Commissioner Scholl,
Aye.
Chair Smith.
Thank you. Motion passes 4-0-1. Okay, Gary, let's move on.
Great, thank you. Thank you, Nate. Next are two board discussion items. The first item, statement of support for the Eastern European community. You have a draft document in front of you, Commissioners. Chair Smith, I believe you'd like to start the conversation.
Yes, I'm going to have Commissioner Scholl read this statement into the record, followed by comments from Commissioner Fisher on this very important item. Thank you very much.
The state of Oregon, and Clackamas County specifically, has one of the largest Eastern European populations in our country. As we witness the growing tensions and destruction in Ukraine, the Board of County Commissioners would like to acknowledge the deep impacts of our neighbors, residents, and community members with roots and ties to the Eastern European region of the world. We extend our heartfelt support for the people impacted by this conflict at home and abroad, especially those who are deeply worried about the safety, health, and welfare of their loved ones. The board stands with communities experiencing conflict, destruction, and hardship globally, nationally, and locally. We know that many world and national events occur on a regular basis in need of humanitarian support. As such, Clackamas County is contributing $7,500 to the Slavic Community Center of the Northwest, which is pulling together care packages and necessities for Ukrainian refugees. For more information, please visit the Slavic Community Center of the Northwest.org website.
Thank you, Commissioner Scholl. Commissioner Fisher.
Yeah, thank you, Chair Smith. I appreciate our board in bringing this forward. It was deeply on my mind and my heart, and one thing that we have here in Clackamas County is pretty good relationships. So in texting and conversing with Chair Smith over the weekend and bringing this idea forward and really feeling the connection that we all feel and compassion for our neighbors and friends here in Clackamas County and abroad, we united together stand for peace in our world and in our community. So I appreciate the collaboration, and I'm very happy to adopt this statement. And when it's the appropriate time, I will do so. If there are other comments.
Any other further comments on this, Commissioner Savas?
Sure. I would just want to just say that I can relate to some degree to the challenge those families are facing. My family, my ancestors were experienced a similar thing in Constantinople back in 1915 and 1920. And on my wife's side of the family, part of hers were also refugees during World War II and World War I, so they are Slavic as well. So I can definitely understand and relate this, totally support it. And my heart and thoughts and compassion are with those that are being displaced, and hopefully they will be able to connect with their loved ones and their families and their neighbors sometime soon.
Thank you for that. Commissioner Fisher, I will entertain a motion.
Thank you, Chair Smith. I move that we adopt the statement read by Commissioner Scholl in support for our Eastern European community.
Second.
Commissioner Fisher has made the motion to adopt the statement of support for the Eastern European community. Commissioner Schrader has seconded the motion. Any further discussion from our board members?
No.
I was very happy that we had an adroit staff help us write this statement moving forward. I believe payment went out last week, Gary.
Yes, it did.
As practically as soon as we approved it, and then we took some time to pen the statement moving forward. I appreciate everybody's effort and their heartfelt support for this country and the people who are here in Oregon and Clackamas County. With that in mind, Shannon, please call the poll.
Commissioner Scholl.
Aye.
Commissioner Savas.
Aye.
Commissioner Schrader.
Aye.
Commissioner Fisher.
Aye.
Chair Smith.
Aye, motion passes 5-0. Thank you very much, Commissioners. Gary, what's up next?
Thank you, Chair. We have added an item as a second board discussion item based on your direction earlier this week. This is a board letter to the Land Conservation and Development Commission regarding climate-friendly and equitable community rules. The letter was posted online. We emailed it to you as well. We're seeking your approval to finalize this document today. Dan Johnson, please come forward. Dan Johnson is the Director of Transportation and Development. I'm going to ask you, Dan, to give a one-minute recap of where we're at, and then he'll answer any questions you may have. The goal, though, is to seek your approval of this letter today. Sorry, Dan, if you were surprised about that, but please come on up.
Thank you, Dan.
Chair Smith, Commissioners, Dan Johnson, Director of Transportation Development. The letter before you are comments to the Land Conservation and Development Commission regarding proposed climate-friendly and equitable community rules they are considering. They fall under three primary areas of focus: clarity and feasibility, time and resources, exemptions and exceptions. These are all comments that we heard from you as we discussed at yesterday's meeting with the Board of County Commissioners. We have included comments that were shared by the board yesterday. We forwarded this document around to the commission yesterday evening. We received comments from Commissioner Savas regarding one specific area. We have made edits to the document to include that. We are here in front of the board to request authorization to submit the letter before you today.
Okay, I'm going to make some comments on this because based on what was said so far today, nobody understands what we're doing here. So the Oregon legislature in the last two legislative sessions has passed very onerous land use legislation, which by law this board has adopted. And some of those land use laws have increased density in our unincorporated areas in Clackamas County, which means we can build more units for housing in unincorporated Clackamas County. However, this board has set our belief system and we have set priority for the livability because, after all, this is Clackamas County. One of those priorities was to allow parking on apartment dwellings and keeping people from parking their cars in residential areas where people have home ownership, just trying to keep the livability quotient what our citizens want, and we have heard from citizens on this. Our staff has done a huge amount of work, gone to a lot of cost. This board has wrestled back and forth what to do on not only what we call the middle housing law, but others as well. And I think, Dan, if I'm not mistaken, we still have another law to consider. Then Governor Brown, in her infinite wisdom, decided to issue an executive order that went exactly around what the legislature did and imposed through LCDC, the Land Conservation and Development Commission, even harsher regulations after most jurisdictions have already abided what the Oregon legislature did. This board yesterday is in objection to that. Rulemaking is going forward. The letter that is submitted online, which I hope people bother to read, has said, hold the phone, Governor. Hold the phone, LCDC. We have already done A, B, C, and D, and I understand from your presentation yesterday, and I'm reading from my notes, that this applies to 8 metro areas in Oregon within their UGB, which is the urban growth boundary. Some of our unincorporated land is within the UGB and some is not. It has to do everything with ZDO amendments, a parking plan, and capital transportation projects, of which we have none. It addresses transit, of which we have very little, and I don't see how Clackamas County can ever be in compliance not only with the governor's order, nor the 136-page document that the LCDC has published. I don't believe there's a jurisdiction around that is going to be able to conform to what the governor wants to do under the auspices of climate health. It's not doable, people. I don't see how this board can go through. That is why we have this letter today to be submitted to rulemaking authority at the LCDC, and I see some of my commissioners might want to opine on this. Thank you, commissioners. Commissioner Savas, you're up.
Yeah, well, thank you, Chair, for opening the discussion on this. I appreciate the letter. I appreciate the fact that we actually have an opportunity to talk about it here this morning. We have been, always heard about mandates, unfunded mandates or mandates, and this is more than about funding of the mandate. This is more about the land use, it's about the character, it's about the values of Clackamas County citizens that some of these legislative bills now are forcing upon us. I think not a lot of people are aware that counties, for the most part, most all counties, implement state law. We don't create it. And whether that's an array of things that people misunderstand, but nonetheless, this one here we're going to have a very hard time with, I believe. HB 2001, House Bill 2001, House Bill 2003, House Bill 2006, and of course this here today are just great examples of basically an imposition that while we don't have all the mechanisms, we haven't had the investment in transportation and transit, all these things to make this metropolitan style, these mandates work. Without that, we're going to change the character of Clackamas County, whether the Clackamas County citizens like it or not, but not have the transit or the transportation investments and facilities to back it up. It's nonsensical. So it's just unfortunate. This is just another example of this, and frankly, I just hope that the legislature takes another look at these and reevaluates that. If they're going to force us to do those things, they better bring a heck of a lot of money to bring ourselves up to code. This is a suburban rural county. It is not a metropolitan county, but they want to create it as such. So look out, folks. I don't think people are aware of what's about to come.
Thank you, Commissioner Savas. I agree with your comments as well. Commissioner Fisher, you're up.
Thank you, Chair Smith. I want to thank our staff for being so thoughtful and able to take the collective will of us and put it into this nice letter. I appreciate that our board is absolutely in support of climate-friendly and equitable communities. We have a climate action plan, which is one of our 10 priorities. We understand probably better than I would maybe think almost any county in the state how climate incidents affect us with our wildfires, ice storms, heat dome. We really experience the effect of climate. But if we are going to be effective in addressing the issues, we can't have rules that are impossible to implement, are too complex to even figure out what they are in those 136 pages, or too quick to be thoughtful. So this right here gives our voice a very effective voice, and I anticipate with the work that, let's see, I think it's Commissioner Scholl, Commissioner Savas, Commissioner Schrader, and Chair Smith do with our state association and with our coordination with the League of Oregon Cities, that our collective local voice will be strong in saying what we're going to do, we need to do it right, thoughtful, and effective. So thank you, Dan, for being here and for bringing this forward.
Thank you so much.
Well said, Commissioner Fisher. Are there any other comments from commissioners on this? Nope. Nope, I'll entertain a motion of support to this letter.
Move to approve the letter as drafted.
Second?
Commissioner Savas has moved for approval of the letter to the Land Conservation and Development Commissioner. Commissioner Schrader has seconded that motion. Any further discussion? Shannon, please call the poll.
Commissioner Fisher?
Aye.
Commissioner Savas?
Aye.
Commissioner Scholl?
Aye.
Commissioner Schrader?
Aye.
Chair Smith?
Aye, motion passes 5-0. Thank you very much, commissioners. And Dan, thank you for your hard work and that quick turnaround.
Thank you.
You betcha. Gary, what's up next?
Next, Chair Smith, is the consent agenda. Shannon, would you please read the consent agenda?
I apologize, I need to share my screen.
It's all right. Take your time. We have time.
Thank you. Health, Housing, and Human Services, approval of Amendment Number 2 to a non-federal subrecipient grant agreement with Clackamas Women's Services for emergency shelter services. This amendment adds $79,350 for a new revised total value of $309,039. Funding through the State of Oregon Department of Housing and Community Services. No county general funds are involved. Approval of Amendment Number 2 to a non-federal subrecipient grant agreement with Northwest Housing Alternatives for emergency shelter services. This amendment adds $125,358 for a new revised total value of $469,669. Funding through the State of Oregon Department of Housing and Community Services. No county general funds are involved. Approval of an intergovernmental agreement with the City of Sandy to provide $28,800 in grant funding for a project to add Americans with Disabilities Act accessible doors to the Sandy City Hall building, funded through Community Development Block Grant. No county general funds are involved. Approval to apply for a Homeless Veterans Reintegration Program grant to expand and enhance Clackamas County's Veterans Workforce Program. Amount requested is $851,055, funded through U.S. Department of Labor. County general funds include $628,626 budgeted and allocated to Children, Family, and Community Connections Division for the Veterans Workforce Program. Approval of Amendment Number 1 to Intergovernmental Grant Agreement Number 168033 with the State of Oregon, acting by and through its Oregon Health Authority for Crisis Counseling Program Services. This amendment reinstates and extends the duration of the agreement through May 31st, 2022. Revenue value of $762,335.69 is unchanged by this amendment. Funded through Federal Emergency Management Administration funds, provided through the State of Oregon. No county general funds are involved. Approval of Amendment Number 1 to the 2022 Revenue Agreement with the State of Oregon, acting by and through its Oregon Health Authority for the operation and financing of community mental health, addiction treatment, recovery and prevention services, and problem gambling programs. This amendment updates the special conditions and service descriptions. Total agreement value remains $8,383,001.70, funded through State of Oregon. No county general funds are involved. County Council, approval of a board order terminating the cable television franchise agreement for the use of the county rights-of-way with Beaver Creek Cooperative Telephone Company. This termination will reduce county revenues by $14,843.50 due to lost fees and channel payments. Business and Community Services, approval of a contract with Lingso Systems, Inc. for library automated material handling equipment and maintenance services. Total contract value is $226,630, funded through Business and Community Services, Link Library Services, Oregon City, and Lake Oswego. The cities will contribute $138,092, and the remaining $88,538 will be paid by BCS Link budgeted county general funds over the course of 4 years. That is the end of the consent agenda.
Thank you, Shannon, for that. Any commissioner wish to pull any item off the consent agenda?
No,
Yeah.
Chair, I do have a question for the administrator. Under the last item, Gary, is that actually a library district matter, or is that actually a general fund matter?
It is a general fund matter. It is not library district funds. It's a commitment as part of the IGAs with each city that the county would provide the link service, the network service for all libraries.
Great, thanks for the clarification.
You bet. Thank you. Any other questions or comments? I'll entertain a motion.
I move for approval of the consent agenda.
Second.
Commissioner Scholl has moved for approval of the consent agenda. Commissioner Schrader has seconded the motion. Any further discussion? Seeing none, Shannon, please call the poll.
Commissioner Savas?
Aye.
Commissioner Fisher?
Aye.
Commissioner Scholl?
Aye.
Commissioner Schrader?
Aye.
Chair Smith?
Aye. Motion passes 5-0. Thank you very much. I will now recess as the Board of County Commissioners and convene as a Water Environment Services Board. Gary.
Chair Smith, next is the Water Environment Services consent agenda. Shannon, would you please read the consent agenda?
Approval of an intergovernmental agreement between Water Environment Services and partner cities for regional inflow and infiltration reduction. This agreement creates a cost-sharing mechanism to reflect the shared benefit of inflow and infiltration reduction and the impact on governmental budgets, whereby WES will make 33% cost contributions to support qualifying projects in partner jurisdictions. West's contribution will be funded by Water Environment Services capital funds and with a likely maximum expenditure of approximately $3.5 million per year. No county general funds are involved.
Thank you very much, Shannon. Any commissioner wish to remove an item? I'm going to have Greg Geis come up. I just want him to address and make some of the brief comments that he did in our last meeting, how important this item is and how we got there.
Yes, thank you, Chair Smith. Am I on?
You're on.
Okay, thank you, Chair Smith. This is really important. We've been working on this for a couple years now. This is an opportunity for us to provide essentially a carrot to the cities to get them to improve their systems and reduce the amount of water that ultimately gets to our treatment plants. It'll save approximately $100 million over the next 20 years if it's successful. And so we're very excited. It's an opportunity to partner. Yeah. Anything else?
So Clackamas County West has agreed to pay for 33% of the city's aging pipes and I&I system, correct?
Correct.
We're able to do that because last year, your organization was able to get a very, very good bond rate to construct and pay for a lot of capital construction projects in Clackamas County where our infrastructure is aging, correct?
That's correct.
Thank you for your good work on that. Commissioner Savas.
Yeah, this is something we've been working on for a long time, or trying to get some cooperation on. And granted, I think, Greg, on Tuesday, when we went over the consent agenda, you did identify that we too, West, has some areas in which we have some pipes that need some work.
Yes.
Some transmission or conveyance lines. So I just want to do a shout out to the cities that have participated, that are participating, because we've been asking for this for a long time, and it's been a long time. So I just really appreciate the good work and staying with it.
Thank you. Yes, and as of last night, we have 5 of 6 cities.
5 cities that have signed up.
Yes, and I anticipate Westland soon.
Great.
Thank you very much for the work on this and the outreach.
Thank you.
Any further comments from commissioners? I will entertain a motion.
I move to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Commissioner Savas has moved for the approval of the consent agenda for Water Environment Services, and Commissioner Schrader has seconded that motion. Any further discussion? Seeing none, Shannon, please call the poll.
Commissioner Fisher?
Aye.
Commissioner Schull?
Aye.
Commissioner Schrader?
Aye.
Commissioner Savas?
Aye.
Chair Smith?
Aye, motion passes 5-0. Thank you very much. I will now adjourn as a Water Environment Services Board and reconvene as the Board of County Commissioners. Up next is public communication. This portion of the agenda shall be limited to items of county business which are properly the object of board consideration and should be nonpartisan in nature, as a BCC is a nonpartisan governing body under Oregon Revised Statutes and County Code. Comments shall be respectful and courteous. As a reminder, you can email submissions for public communication at bcc@clackamas.us, and these will be accepted as part of the public record. However, we will not be reading them at this business meeting due to time constraints. I will now open the public testimony portion of this meeting, and I'm going to take in-person testimony first, as we have so far 2 blue cards filled out. First up is Grover Bornfield. Please come forward, state your name, area of residence, and sir, you will have 3 minutes. And holy cow, look at your papers. I don't think you can get through all those papers in 3 minutes, but give it a shot.
I'll talk fast.
Okay.
Well, caught again.
That's okay. You don't need to hear while you're talking.
That's true. So, good morning, Chair Smith and Commissioners, County Exec, County Council. My name is Grover Jeffrey Bornefeld, and I'm a 30-year resident in unincorporated Clackamas County. Unincorporated makes up approximately the population of the entire county, and we're active. I retired in 2015 after a career in the military and corporate and nonprofit world, and started working here because
I can't make a difference in the whole country, but I can here, and so I serve on several boards. I started on my CPO board, I'm on the library board, I'm on the Parks Board, and I'm also on the Concord Task Force, and I'm here to speak as myself, but I participate. And I only brought this along for effect. This is only half of the Concord Task Force material. We've been working for 3+ years. We've done a lot of work. And I want to touch on that, but what I really want to touch on is my concern that, first of all, I want to thank you. I always want to remember to do that because all the stuff we get to do is because you appoint and approve the work we do and we go do the work. What I'm concerned about is the amount of work that we do doesn't always get heard. And I don't want to go into the details of that. I can do that through other channels, but I want you to know that I have experience for 25 years working with mostly volunteers in very challenging things, working with minorities, working with high-risk teenagers, with their families. And the point of it is well-trained volunteers can provide extraordinary impact, but they have to feel honored, valued, and be well-trained. So that's piece one. But the other part is there isn't enough money to have staff pay for and fulfill all the needs. So I think that's a greatly underutilized value we have. Where's the timer? There we go. And so I want to speak to thanking you for appointing, thanking you for taking the time to listen the number of times you have, and I want you to continue doing that because right now on the Concord, we've meet, and the truth is we don't always get what we need, and we're not always heard, and I want that to continue. We're doing great, and I think it's coming together. We have almost every body I work on has agreed that we're going to separate the library from the other, but now we're working out the details. You can't take years of work and then compress it in a couple weeks because we got to know right now. We're making great progress. I'm really happy to speak to that. I love your announcement. I'm going to speak off topic here for the thing about House Bill 2001. Okay, we're underfunded. You betcha. We are underfunded for parks. We lack sufficient urban services and transportation. Mm-hmm. So to have that put on us. Okay.
Go ahead. Just finish your concluding comments.
So my concluding comments is I want to, and I will come back as often as necessary, but I really want to work through channels to have the time, energy, and effort of volunteers be used well.
Thank you very much. I appreciate your comments coming forward today. Up next is Mark Elliott. Please come forward, state your name, area of residence, and you too have 3 minutes.
Good morning, Chair Smith and Commissioners. My name is Mark Elliott. I'm a resident of Oak Grove, and I am here this morning representing the Oak Grove Trolley Trail Festival as the organizing committee chair. The organizing committee has been meeting since December in hopes of sponsoring the Trolley Trail Festival this summer, and we're very pleased to announce that the festival will return to downtown Oak Grove on Saturday, July 16th, after a 2-year hiatus, with the support and sponsorship of the historic Downtown Oak Grove Association. The one-day event will be held in Oak Grove Boulevard between 11 a.m. and 4 p.m. Over 100 local vendors, nonprofit organizations, and governmental agencies who participated in 2019 are expected to return this year. Festival events will include live music by local bands including Pie Fight, the Rose Villa Ukulele Band, Memphis Shorty, the Rich Gritty Band, and Arthur Moore. Food, beer, and wine would be available, as well as children and family activities coordinated by the United Methodist Church of Oak Grove. With the assistance and coordination with the County Planning Department, Transportation Department, the Clackamas County Fire District, and the Sheriff's Department, we hope to have Oak Grove open to festival goers and emergency vehicles only. The organizing committee is very grateful to the county for their assistance in organizing this important and just downright fun community event. We hope to see many of our friends, family, and community members throughout the county to join us for a great time on July 16th in historic downtown Oak Grove. More information about this event, applications for vendors, sponsors, and volunteer opportunities can be found at our website, hdog.org. I also wanted to speak this morning as a task force member of the Oak Lodge and Gladstone Community Project and echo the unanimous decision of the task force during our meeting on Tuesday, Tuesday, March 15th, to separate the library from the community center and to prioritize the preservation of park space and parkland and the placement of the library on the Concord site. The Oak Grove community is intensely observing the progress of this project and expects the full support of the Board of County Commissioners in seeing this important project brought to completion in the near future. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Elliott. Appreciate both your comments. I believe, Gary, we are moving ahead on the library project. Commissioner Savas, do you have comments?
Yeah, I just wanted to thank Mr. Elliott and Mr. Bornefeld for being here today, and most especially for their hours and hours and hours and hours of hard work, volunteering on this process for years. And I have been asked sometimes to speak at some of these meetings about some of the issues, but for the most part, I let the group do what they do and decide what they decide and try not to interfere. And I was hoping to get more clarity, frankly, on a begging question the group has had, because this is a two-part process where they're doing two things at once on the same property, and that is a library and a community center, park, place for kids in an area that is woefully underserved and has been underserved for the life of the NCPRD district and before then. So, Gary, is there any insight or updates you can, or anything you can convey to these two members here today as to the viability of the NCPRD elements to come forth to make at least a portion of that happen? Do you have any updates on that? I know you and I have been talking. Hopefully we can get something sound, but that seems to be the core of what people are trying to get at. They're making decisions based on what they heard in November, that there's no funding available, that there's not an answer for the sudden evaporation of monies to make this happen. Granted, inflation's been a factor, but is there anything you can do to, dispel what we heard in November?
I love wearing a mask because you can't see my facial expressions. Of course, Commissioner Savas and Commissioners. So let me say, from the staff perspective, and the board will correct me, the commissioners are committed to both Oak Lodge Library, Gladstone Library, and the Concord School Project. That has never wavered. The finances are constantly changing, right? And so my role as a humble servant is to bring to the board, anytime there's a change order, here's what we've noticed, and then the board gets to make that decision. There are finances available. It is possible to fund the original options of the Oak Lodge Library and the Concord School, yet there are compromises, and there's always choices. And to stick to the original funding plan will mean there will be other choices that have to be made. And all I'm doing is presenting to the board all the information, all the facts. And that's why the board asked the community to come up with, in this very short period of time, and we're sorry it was so short, but help advise the board as they make a final decision on the two libraries in the Concord School. So the Parks District is not bankrupt. It has funds. There are ways to fund both of these projects, but all we have to do is bring to the board all possible options, and then the board of directors makes the final decision. And all that will happen next month, commissioners. We're getting the public input now and bring all of that to you with staff recommendations for you to make the final decisions.
Great. Thank you, Gary. Commissioner Schrader.
I just want to thank you two gentlemen for coming in today, because that library project in particular is one project that I'm really looking forward to cutting the ribbon on. So thank you for all the work for that. I think libraries are one of the most important things that we do in this country across the board, and can't go wrong building another library. So thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you, Mr. Elliott, for coming forward. Is there anyone else who would wish to testify in the room who has not submitted a blue card? I don't see anybody. Okay, Shannon, will you please moderate the public Zoom portion of this meeting?
Yes, thank you, Chair. I have one person registered online at this time. If anyone did not get a chance to register ahead of time and would like to testify, please select the raise hand feature, and I will call on the registered participants first, and then the raised hands in the order they were received. First up is Catherine Mack. Catherine, please unmute yourself, state your name and residence. You have 3 minutes.
Hi, my name is Catherine Mock, and I live in Oak Grove, Oregon, which is part of unincorporated Clackamas County. I watched the recording of the most recent Solid Waste Commission meeting uploaded 2 days ago and which took place originally on March 10th, which was heavily focused on determining a recommendation related to Ridwell, the Seattle-based recycling company, and whether or not to amend county code to allow them to operate within Clack County again. There were 2 options considered as a path forward regarding this topic. Option 1, which entails county code amendments, which would allow non-franchise recycling companies like Ridwell to operate within the county. And option 2, which entails administrative rule amendments, which would expand recycling on the part of franchise collectors. The recommended option, as you maybe have all seen, is option 2, which opts for the franchised solution, which means companies like Ridwell will remain unwelcome. I looked over the executive summary, and while I have not been able to read over every attachment, there were over 100 pages of them. What stands out to me thus far is that while one of the early attachments is in favor of keeping Ridwell out, nearly 100% of the signees on that attachment are waste and recycling company affiliates. Every other attachment I've read following that one is from county members, and they are all pro-Ridwell. One of the aye votes appears to be from Carlton Palmier, who is a senior district manager at Waste Management of Oregon. I understand having industry representatives on the council is intentional, and I can certainly understand the value of having a representative on the council with direct insight from within the recycling industry. However, given that one of the options invites a company within the same industry who may be seen as potential competition, and the other option keeps all recycling business within the current franchisees, I can't see how a franchise employee would vote any other way, regardless of what is in the community members' best interests. My specific ask is that I urge you to vote against the recommendation of the Solid Waste Committee and instead vote for option 1, which would allow companies like Ridwell to operate with all of the design principles for expanded recycling via license or permit that the Solid Waste Commission has laid out for that option. One of these design principles is to exclude materials from pickup by companies like Ridwell, which are already accepted in the county's recycling service. And that's great. This allows unfranchised companies like Ridwell to push our county's recycling innovation forward while preserving the various benefits we get from our franchised haulers, which they've laid out so well in their letter to the Solid Waste Commission. This seems like an ideal situation in which outside competition will drive innovation, while our local franchises will have the opportunity to take over the recycling offerings from companies like Ridwell when they are ready. Ridwell is ready to pick up many of these items now, and now is the time when we need to be recycling as much as possible. Thank you for listening.
Thank you very much. Who's up next?
Next up is Thelma Hagenmiller. Thelma, please unmute yourself, state your name and residence. You'll have 3 minutes.
Good morning, Chair Smith and Commissioners. I wasn't planning to speak today, so I'm a last-minute sign-up. I just want to say thank you to the 2 gentlemen that spoke on the Concord project and the volunteers in the Oak Grove area that are working on this. There are many, many of us, as you know, and I just returned last evening from the Governor's Conference held in Sun River this year with many ideas for helping out on this project. My own focus is going to be that instead of just a community center, that we have an arts and culture and heritage center in the school. So that's what I'm going to be expressing to the North Clackamas Parks and Rec District staff, and bringing in other people besides just those that would consider it a community center. And I thank you all for listening.
Thank you, Thelma. Up next, Shannon.
If there was anyone who was unable to register online and would like to raise your hand at this time. Seeing no one, that is the end of my list, Chair.
Well, thank you. That concludes our portion of public communication. Gary, what's up next?
Next is administrator update. That's me. I always like to share good news of what our employees or our programs or services are providing to the county, and I'd like to share two with you today. First, Clackamas Water Environment Services, or WES, has enrolled in the National Wastewater Surveillance System. That means that WES can now collect wastewater samples from 3 of our facilities to monitor the presence of SARS and SARS-CoV-2, which is a virus that causes COVID-19. Data about our wastewater will be accessed by public health agencies online and through a system of the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. The data can shed light about possible variants of concerns and other trends. Water Environment Services is partnering with the Clackamas County Public Health on this initiative with support from our Business and Community Services Library Network, where the Library Network Courier Service will transport the samples. This is a great example of cooperation between our multiple county departments to do good work that benefits our community. The collection sample started in this February and will continue through early April for now. Next, the Strangulation Response Initiative project, which includes Clackamas County and many community partners, hosted a 4-day advanced course on strangulation prevention training in Wilsonville last week. 157 people attended this conference: law enforcement personnel, healthcare workers, prosecutors, social service professionals, representing 19 of Oregon's 36 counties. Domestic violence strangulation is a strong predictor of future lethal violence for the victim, law enforcement, and the larger community. Attendees told county staff this event will help them improve their community's identification of and response to strangulation and help aid prosecutions. That is my update for today, Commissioners. Thank you.
Wow, thank you. I want to thank Wes for the application of detecting diseases in our wastewater. It was one of the first meetings that I had when I came on as chair, and I sat down with the West Board and Gary and some others, and why aren't we doing this? You know, it's a big predictor in certain areas. If you're able to test in this area, it could be, you know, and let the folks know what's happening, let our health officials know, to try to mitigate the spread of viruses. It's very, very good. I know Washington County does it at their facility as well. Really want to thank you for that, Gary. Now, Commissioners, it's time for Commissioner communication. First, Commissioner Fisher.
Thank you, Chair Smith. Boy, isn't it nice for us to all be together and to see each other. Such a welcome part of this journey of this pandemic turning into an endemic of something that we will learn to live with, and very much appreciate, Gary, the report on monitoring wastewater for diseases, because I think that will help us know what potential risk levels there are and allow us to make adjustments in what we're comfortable with as we move through into the future. I was pretty excited. Personally, during the pandemic, one of the coffee shops that I frequented often on my walk closed, and I was very frustrated about that as one example, as we all saw different businesses shutting during the pandemic, dry cleaners, other small businesses, coffee shops. But this morning at 10 o'clock, there was a grand opening for another coffee shop in that space.
Oh, wow.
The Coffee Bean and Tea Leaf, and I was just happy about that. I had the opportunity Monday morning. I watched my grandchildren over the weekend, and I took my little, after we took the boys to school, took my little 15-month-old granddaughter into the coffee shop, sat down, got her a little vanilla milk, and she had her little froth up on her lip, and it was just a very much a joyous time. So today at 10 o'clock, they had their grand opening, the ribbon cutting with the chamber, and I was here with all of you, so I could not be there. But this is just one moment of celebration, and there will be many more to come. And as we move through onto an endemic, and we struggle with all the uncertainties that are out there with our economic uncertainty, inflation, the rise of interest rates, which just happened with unrest around our world and the concerns at home, we have to take the little nuggets of goodness and celebrate them and share them and do that collectively. So those are my comments today. Chair Smith, thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Fisher. Commissioner Scholl, you're up.
Yes, good morning to each and every resident of Clackamas County. On public safety, I would like every parent and every child to be aware that this county has a serious problem with fentanyl. Last year, this county had 34 overdose deaths with fentanyl, a 450% increase over 2019. Now, how bad is the problem? In 2019, 2,500 pills were confiscated in the county. In 2020, it was 52,000. In 2021, it was 82,000. This year, as of 2 March, 244,000 fentanyl pills were confiscated in this county. Our Clackamas County Sheriff's Department and the Clackamas County Interagency Task Force cannot do this alone. I call on every parent to sit down with your child and watch the video, No Second Chances, Brandon's Story. You can find it on our Clackamas County Sheriff website. Please look at it with your child and ensure that the video is shown in your school. Drug pushers are using pills like aspirins and vitamins to lace with fentanyl in order to try to slip the drug past the police. Every child needs to know, never touch any pill, no matter what it is, unless it comes directly from mom or dad or the doctor. This problem has got to be fought. We got to win it, and we have to win it soon. And it's going to take everybody in this county to make it happen. I thank you for your help on that. On a happier note, this month is the Meals on Wheels fund drive for the Milwaukee Community Center. And you can find out more on their website, but the Milwaukee Community Center is a huge, huge help to our community. They push out some 60,000 meals every year to our elderly population, and they need your help. Every dollar you give, Bob's Red Mill's going to match it. And please give them a call and see what you can do to be a cook, a driver, or a donor. And on a clean county, litter and illegal dumping is a problem that's creeping our way more and more. And you can report illegal dumping and trash to the Metro Rid Patrol or to our County Department of Transportation and Development or to your city. But if you see it, report it. Government cannot do this alone. We need community activists to take part and clean up. Oksana and I have found a illegal dump just 100 yards east of Highway 212 and 82nd. There's probably about a ton of garbage there. If it's not gone in 2 weeks, she and I are going to get a trailer and we're going to clean that up. And I urge every citizen in the county to be an activist in keeping Clackamas County beautiful. On 3 CCOM retirements, I had the pleasure to go with Chair Smith on Monday to the retirement of Suzanne Bauman, Jody Eckler, and Julianne Postlethwaite, 3 women whose total service to this county exceeded some 80 years of devotion to duty. We're going to miss them, and thank you, ladies, for your service to the people of Clackamas County. Yesterday, on emergency operations, I had a really outstanding brief from Daniel Niebauer from Disaster Management. He and his staff are working on, and the rest of the county staff are working on the county's emergency operation plan. And I encourage CPOs out there and cities to also be looking at your plans and look for more to come here in the next few weeks on the county plan. It's a very important work. On this day in history, on March 17th, 461 AD, St. Patrick, Christian missionary, bishop, and Apostle of Ireland, dies at Saul Downpatrick, Ireland, and today he is honored with the annual holiday of St. Patrick's Day. And since 461 AD, the Irish have been working on this every year with that green beer, and they will, I'm sure, be working on it for many decades to come. And finally, the quote of the day. 20 years from now, you will be more disappointed by the things you didn't do than by the ones you did do. So throw off the bow lines, sail away from the safe harbor, catch the trade winds in your sails, explore, dream, and discover. As a quote by the Venerable Mark Twain. Thank you, Clackamas County. Smile a lot. Enjoy the day.
Thank you, Commissioner Scholl. Commissioner Savas, you're up.
Yeah, thank you. Definitely did want to go to the retirement party for the three individuals in CCOM. They have a heck of a job, and the people that are working there today, it's a very tough job to be taking those calls. So I do want to speak just briefly about that. You know, they in the course of time, you know, it's pretty anguishing to listen to others in that time of emergency, and knowing that they really can't help, but they're trying to get emergency responders there, and they hear some things and go through some things that are very difficult for them to cope with. So, congratulations to them for their their retirement, and also gratitude for their years of service, and also for those that are working CCOM today, doing what they do. And the reason I couldn't do that was because I was busy with a lot of transportation stuff, so I'm going to give you my update, colleagues, as to the JPAC meeting this morning. As your representative, I did represent, as we discussed both last week and this week, and I made my pitch, Chair, and used the example of the people traversing from Vancouver that work here at Clackamas County, and other examples, and the Chair's desire to ask that they remove all language of tolling all the lanes. That didn't go anywhere. I didn't think it was going to, but we did get some amendments in there that we have worked on, and it looks as though that even though last month and months prior we had regional agreement, we had our state legislators, our Clackamas County caucus, our federal delegation, all saying, please don't toll Clackamas County first, toll the region together. And as of the vote this morning, that's not what's going to occur. What was demonstrated yesterday at another meeting related to I-205, which is very troubling, frankly, was that the work that we were waiting for, the analysis that we were waiting for, is not going to be anywhere near as complete as we were led to believe it would be. So therefore, even though ODOT might be perhaps displaying, which they did, displaying these results, that the diversion or the rerouting through our communities won't be as bad, it's incomplete data because the analysis itself was incomplete.
Are you referring to the NEPA study?
I'm referring to the NEPA study. Yes, I am. Instead of, because we were under the impression and told along that the results would answer the questions, and the questions are really applied to that 7-mile corridor, you know, from Stafford exit all the way to the east of Highway 213. That would be the analysis. And it turns out the analysis and the results that they're displaying are only really the bridge and maybe a quarter mile each way of the bridge, approximately, at best a half mile each way of the bridge. And that's the only part of the analysis they're demonstrating. I and others that on that committee were pretty upset, and so the information coming out of ODOT has been confusing at best. So it's been incomplete. There were, I think most every motion passed by about 10 yeas, 10, 11 nays to 4 or 5 nays. So I was not alone in that, probably for different reasons. Commissioner Scholl was listening in. I saw him in the audience, in the Zoom audience. But the update is that they're gonna forge ahead with their plans, and we will be the first to experience the toll. And my concern here, I will say this, and I'll end it here, the concern about the 1-year stagger between when they start the tolling in Clackamas to when they start the rest of the region. I'm going to bet money, willing to take bets, wagers, that is going to be far longer than a year spacing, that it could be years before the rest of the region. So Clackamas County will be told, and will be the first to be told, and it could last for much longer before any other part of the region experiences any other tolls.
Commissioner Savas, I want to thank you for your work on that. And this commission has certainly given you the opportunity to be flexible because it's a moving target. Everything is changing on your membership on JPAC and Commissioner Scholl as well. Thank you for that. We're standing, trying to fight the good fight for our citizens on this. Thank you again. Commissioner Schrader, you're up.
Well, thank you, Chair Smith and colleagues. It's great to be here today to see everybody in person. And I'm looking forward to the next year really being one of our finest, actually, at this point, now that we're back together again. I do want to say happy St. Patrick's Day to everybody. If you aren't, actually, this is the day in this country, in our county, everyone's Irish. So go out and enjoy, but be careful, okay, tonight. I'd like to talk a little bit about what Chair Smith and I have been doing this week, and we've had an opportunity to talk to members of our federal delegation, presenting to them our 2022 legislative agenda. I know that Chair Smith has talked to Representative Schrader. We are talking to 3 of our delegation tomorrow, Representative Bonamici, Representative Bentz, and who else?
Wyden is next week.
Wyden's next week.
DeFazio.
DeFazio. And then we did talk to Senator Merkley yesterday. All of them have been really big champions for the work that we're doing here on things like the Legacy Project. They have all been extremely helpful on the Locks Project, which finally, since 2003, since we've been working on this, is finally coming to fruition. It's taken years. That's going to happen. And I really believe that we'll be having another delegate. We don't know who that's going to be yet, soon, elected in District 6, one way or the other. And so I'm looking forward to seeing who that person may be and how we as a county have to continue to approach our federal delegation as well to make sure that we get the dollars and our needs met. I'd like to give a shout out because I see Rod in the back of the room, who's Director of Human Services here in the county. The Housing HAC, our Housing and Community Services Group, just came up with their 5-year plan. They're required to do this by HUD at the federal level. It's a great plan, and I looked up some numbers about how successful they have been in housing, which I wanted to share because it's wraparound services, but it's also sticks and bricks. They have added 214 units at Oddie. This is usually for 60% and 30% below area median income. 28 units in Oregon City. We are rebuilding Holcomb, and we have 400 new units in Milwaukee. And that is really a result of their hard work, making sure that as we cope with houselessness, as we cope with folks that, excuse me, okay, that's over with. But as we work with folks that need the wraparound services, we also have the capacity for the units to house people and to continue to work on that problem. So thank you, Rod, for all the work you do, not only with the sticks and bricks, but with the service delivery systems that we are trying to deliver to make sure people stay safe in their homes. With that, I hand it to you, Chair.
Thank you,
Okay.
Commissioner Schrader. Commissioner Schrader has indicated, yesterday we met with U.S. Senator Jeff Merkley, and just a real friendly, wonderful conversation. Both you and I have known him for many years. I served with him in the Oregon legislature as well. He has been a proponent for Clackamas County and has helped. He's also, Paul, tried to help with the tolling situation in ODOT, with the Director Strickland, and any other issues that we can bear upon ODOT to please pay attention and be equitable in their plans moving forward. We had really good news this week in that because of our federal delegation, they have approved the final $6.2 million for the repair of the Willamette Falls locks. That accompanies the $7.5 million contribution from the Oregon legislature made by Senator Bill Kennemer. That is full funding for the repair of the locks that the United States Corps of Engineers will be conducting. I'm very excited to move forward on that project. March 30 of this month, I will be attending the first meeting of the statewide commission on the Locks Authority to move forward and seeing the repairs on the locks and doing all kinds of other wonderful things. This has been a long-time project. I started working on this when I was a commissioner last time in 2013. I left, Martha took over, did the yeoman's work on it, and then now I'm back. We've been tag teaming on this. So the reason why that's important, because it will offer another transportation route, and we can use that for economic purposes as well. We can transport through barge, gravel, cement, and we do have companies who want to do that. As you know, our freeway systems are gridlocked at times, a lot of truck traffic. So we're going to be able to move up and down through there. Also, it'll be open for recreation purposes as well, from folks in Portland who have boats that want to go up, for instance, to the vineyards above Willamette Falls and beyond. So it is multi-purpose. Last Saturday, I attended the Molalla Area Chamber of Commerce banquet and annual auction, and it was so much fun because Saturday, if you remember, was the first day of no masks. So everybody showed up. We had a great time. They had a fantastic auction where nobody got a good deal because they started at the high value and then it went up higher than that. So good luck to the Molalla Area Chamber of Commerce. Today, later, I will be attending my monthly chair and mayor's meeting where I meet with the mayors from all the cities in Clackamas County are invited to do that. With the top issues of the day, I listen to them on what they are working on or need help with, and vice versa. Today, we'll be talking about housing and homeless issues and what the county has available in the area, and I believe Rod Cook is going to be at that today, too. That's all I have to say. Commissioners, thank you for your good work. This meeting is adjourned.